Welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. I'm Dan Thomas, joined by Stewart, Robson, Nedum Onuoha, and a man who is now resigned to history. Craig Burley is with us. Scotland, the only team that won today, beating Haiti 1-0. We'll be discussing that a little later on, plus reflecting on that big win for the US against Paraguay. But we kick things off with Brazil against Morocco, two heavyweights of the group going head-to-head in the opening game. It would be Morocco who would take the lead. Tabari with the opener in the 21st minute. A brilliant individual goal, though, from Vinícius Júnior would see Brazil equalise, and that's how it would finish 1-1 on the day. About right, Robbo?
It was about right, yeah, in the end. Morocco started the game really well. Ancelotti had to change things when they had the call-in break, and that helped Brazil quite a bit. They changed the position of Rafinha. The second half was fairly even, and probably Brazil just had the better of the second half without creating too many chances, but the right result.
If we don't think Morocco are going to win this World Cup, and they're a good side, but I don't think they are, what does it say about Brazil?
Does it say that
there's not a lot between the sides, was there?
Were either side at full throttle, I suppose, is what I'm saying. Like opening match, kind of trying to work each other out.
Well, and we've seen that from the French before when they've been successful, and even the Spanish, but particularly the French, where they start a little slower and then they build into the tournament.
Argentina lost to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, well, they didn't build into the tournament. They got a rocket up their backside. But the French were in a better position in terms of, I'm just not convinced that this Brazil side have enough in some of the key areas, like the middle of the park, maybe even the full-back areas, to go all the way in this competition. There's a juggling act about Rafinha and Vinícius Júnior and where they're all going to play. And then you look at, there's really not a lot of legs in the middle of the park. Casemiro, we know, can't get around the side.
He was subbed at half-time, wasn't he?
He was. Guimaraes is a good player on the ball, but he's not the most mobile of players, and Paquetá can do something pretty good, or can be a liability. So they're a good side. It's not a surprise to me what I saw. They're a good side, they're a decent side with a very good manager, but they're quite a way short of where they need to be, I think, to win this competition.
I think it'll be interesting to see the effect that Carlo Ancelotti has on this side. I think we've seen him be exceptional from a club standpoint, but can he sprinkle some sort of magic on this? Because the way you're talking about Brazil feels the same way you probably spoke about Real Madrid for 3 or 4 seasons, going through something like the Champions League, and then somehow something happens, and at the end of the season, there they are lifting the trophy again. And I think if you're going to go on a player-for-player basis, no, they're probably not, top 2, top 3 in the whole competition. But I don't know.
I think he'd be worried after today, the way they started off and the formation that he put the team in, and he had Rafinha playing sort of on the left-hand side, and he had Vinny Júnior playing through the inside left. After 20 minutes, he said, this isn't working, we're being totally outplayed, I'm going to make the decisions. So, Vinny Júnior, you go and play left wing. Rafinha, you come to the right-hand side. We're going to play Paquetá, who was playing on the right-hand side in the number 10 role, and we're going to play from there. And so he made a big decision, and it worked for him. The centre-forward, Thiago, who I think had a really good season for Brentford, looked out of his depth, didn't really get hold of the ball, didn't make any runs in behind. So I'd be surprised if he starts the game. Cunha came on. So I think Ancelotti will make big decisions.
Do you even think back in Brazil there's a pressure, but is there really an expectation?
I think there's always an expectation around Brazil because
really?
5-time champions.
Because they brought in the first foreign manager ever, and
well, I think just because of history, and they're still the 5th favourites to win it, and there's always that belief there that you can go all the way, as there is with any big country or any big club.
You said the 5th favourites.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but even so,
it's still a way down the
Real Madrid
ladder.
Fans still expect Real Madrid to win the Champions League because they've got an incredible history in the tournament. Brazilian fans expect the same from their side because of what they've done in the past.
But that's a long way back in the past, isn't it?
But I still think there is an expectation there, and I
just don't think they have. I think they have some star players, but not enough.
Yes, yeah, and we talk,
and the ones that are not at that level, I think are going to let them down. Mm-hmm. If Ancelotti, as Nedum said, wants to play a more sort of stoic, pedestrian, organised game, that's fine, which he did at Real Madrid, but then you have to have the players that are going to be able to keep the back door shut and a clean sheet and defend that way, and I'm not quite sure they have, to be honest.
I suppose in some ways you could say that you've got Gabriel, who was probably the best player at Arsenal when they won the title. Mm-hmm. You've got Marquinhos, the captain of PSG, who won the European Cup or Champions League. You've got one of the best players in world football, Rafinha, and you've also got somebody who could be one one of the world's best players in Vinícius Júnior. So you've got the makeup of a team, but some of those added-on players aren't quite good enough at the moment to take them to the next level, I
think you're right when you talk about star power and you compare them to France and Spain, who are the front runners in this tournament. But if they falter, there's no reason why Brazil can't push people all the way with the squad that they've got, because you look at other teams and where are their stars?
Yeah, and if there's some upsets along the way and they hang around, and yeah, they've got a chance. I'm just saying, if they come up against one of those sides...
Yes.
OK, on any given day you can pull a victory out, but I don't see them beating a France or a Spain, to be honest with you. I see them more at that sort of Portugal level, where we're waiting to see what Roberto Martinez is going to do with that Portuguese side, which I would suggest, from back to front, maybe you could argue has got more talent in it than this Brazilian side.
Definitely in that midfield.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm not even sure within their own camp they believe they're going to win this World Cup, but we'll see. Maybe they'll build into it. Morocco was a good test for them. There's no doubt that the Morocco and Brazil are the best two teams in this group by a country mile. Both teams will build into it, and it's going to be an interesting watch to see what Brazil do, and if they can kick on to that next level, we'll find out. You
mentioned Carlo Ancelotti trying to sprinkle a little bit of magic. He has done with Vinny since taking over. You look at his record with the national team before his former Real Madrid manager came in and took the reins at Brazil. He was struggling. There were questions being asked. Look at this, just 6 goals in 39 games under previous managers. 4 goals in 11 here under Ancelotti, and a big goal today. As Craig said, if he wants to be referred to as one of the best in the world, you need to do this on the world stage.
Well, 100%, and he's doing it for Brazil, and he's scoring a goal of that manner, something that gets his side back into the game. And you get the feeling that won't be the only goal that he scores for the rest of this tournament. So yes, Ancelotti has previously gotten the best out of him at club level. They believe that he can do that at this international stage as well. So, you know, as you say, the stage is set for them. But to go back to Craig's point, actually, about who's going to be favoured to win it and so on, one thing that I've just realised there is all the teams who have got better odds to beat to win this tournament than Brazil haven't played yet. So we're thinking about the best version of them. For all we know, after we see those teams play, maybe we'll sort of lower our expectations just a little bit. And I think for Brazil, you know, obviously, it wasn't great today, but if we sort of give them credit for making Morocco look like an average side in the second half, then yes, it's not perfect, but in terms of building into a tournament, it's probably something Ancelotti will accept.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right, that we're thinking about France at their very best. We're thinking about Spain at their very best. And when you look at the Spanish side, there's still 1 or 2 areas you think, I'm not sure that they're that good defensively. They're not that strong in 1 or 2 areas.
And we don't know how fit...
And we don't know
Lamine Yamal's going to be.
And one of the other teams is England. You know, again, we're saying that England are a particularly good side, but we've seen them in pre-tournament games. They've played very well. But I still look at their players individually, and I wouldn't say it's a great side. It's a good side, but not a great side.
What do you make of Morocco today?
Brilliant for the first 20 minutes. Played at high tempo. They won the ball back high up the field. They were sharp. They were quick. They had good movement, good passing in the top third of the field. A good goal that he scored with a ball over the top. Centre-forward runs between defenders. But as the game wore on, they lost that spark, and they defended OK, but they couldn't find the passing combinations. They couldn't find their way through Brazil, and it petered out for them, really. That midfield's an issue, isn't it? We saw Casemiro subbed at half-time. It's a good decision. We talked earlier about it. Casemiro was already booked, so that might have been, and Nedum said about that. But he was struggling. You know, the midfield was struggling. Guimaraes and him were struggling to get on the ball. They were being outplayed. They were being outrun. They gave the ball away cheaply. They weren't quite sure where to play Paquetá to start with. He was on the right-hand side. Then he went into the number 10 role. So they were looking for combinations to make it work. And it was better in the second half with Fabinho coming in.
Guimaraes at Newcastle has players around them. Not all the time, but when they were playing well, they had Joe Linton and Sandro Tonali. Both of those players are... They're very good players, but they're physical, they can work hard, they can get around the pitch. And that allows him to get on the ball and play a little bit. He doesn't have that at Brazil. Because the guys around him are not workers. Well, Casemiro is, but he can't do it anymore. Paquetá is not. So the balance in there for him is different. And I can see them getting worked really hard. When they get to the knockout stages, if they're getting outflanked in the middle of the park because the front guys are not tracking back, I could see that midfield getting really stretched. That's going to put the pressure on the back line. That's where I think they could win and lose this competition, or certainly be less competitive in this competition, It's not because they haven't got a bit of star power up front, but because they could really get pulled apart in the middle of the park.
And I think the interesting thing here is that we're almost looking at the tournament in two different ways. Because you're thinking about, for example, the knockouts and all the frailties that they'll have.
Well, Scottish, we like to look ahead.
Yeah, of course. But then to mention the Scots and talk about Haiti as well. So we've just seen that game, and Scotland had less possession than Haiti. So the way that Brazil played today against Morocco will probably be different to how they play against Scotland and Haiti, because those two sides probably
I'd like
won't
to
want
think so.
Yeah, because you'd imagine that Scotland probably won't have as much of the ball as they had today. So Brazil are then in a different position to where maybe Bruno Guimaraes or say Casemiro, they're sort of higher up the pitch. They can be a bit more creative instead of having the game that they had today against the Morocco side, who are always poised to go and hit them on the counter.
What did you make of Morocco today, overall?
I have seen them be better. I thought the first 20 minutes was a good representation of why they're a dark horse for so many people. You know, representation of why they were in the semi-finals at the last World Cup. But then it seemed to peter out a little bit. And in that second half, they seemed to struggle a little bit. Some of it, is understandable, because I think quite a few individuals within the teams that we've seen so far have appeared quite tired towards the end of games. But then I look at Morocco, and for all the strengths that they have, you have a Hakimi here, you've got Bouhaddi in midfield, really great technical player. You've also got Issa Diop and Riyad at the back for them, and the two centre-halves, who both don't really start for their clubs in the Premier League. So yes, it's good that as a collective they are this, but there's still individual gaps, in my opinion, that might hold them back.
So when I look at all these teams, I am looking, as you said, I look at the knockout, because, and never more so than the way it's set up now. They are going to, maybe there's going to be the odd one of the big teams. I don't think so. So they are looking at the knockout. So you're looking ahead, right? Where's the pros and cons? What's the manager thinking about? What's the build-up? What's the momentum? How are they going to cope in these areas when they play the better sides? This is almost like, it's not quite a warm-up for some of these teams, but because it's been expanded so much, there is such a parachute for failure that Brazil, all these teams, Spain...
They're not in top gear. They're nowhere near top.
They're not. So you're looking at them saying, right, OK, what's the manager's mindset? He's problem-solving at the moment. To Rob's point about making changes, I think Ancelotti is going to use this period of the group stages as a problem-solving exercise.
Yeah.
When they get to the knockout, right? I can't put him there. He let me down there. He's not playing well. He can't play with him in the midfield. That's not a great balance there. Blah blah blah. And these elite countries will use this as an exercise to make sure they're in the best possible shape come the knockout. And that's just the way it is. You have elite teams and you have teams that are unlikely to qualify. And that's what France have done particularly well at major tournaments recently. They have built into it, and so when they get towards the end, they're hitting top gear. And
going back to your point about Ancelotti maybe changing one or two things, a lot of managers will do that over the course of the campaign, because not out of choice, but at the start of the tournament, this is what they think will be their best team. And we've seen it many, many times. By the end of the tournament, that's not their best team anymore, because one person doesn't play particularly well, so they drop him out the side. Because I dropped him out the side, I've got to change the shape slightly, so he's got to come into the team. So that team that we saw today would have been his number one choice. That won't be the number one choice by the end of it, because they won't always be the top players.
Well, Enzo Fernandez wasn't in the Argentinian side that played against Saudi Arabia. And then they got beat, and Scaloni was the worst manager in Argentinian history, probably back in Buenos Aires, and he had to make some big calls, which he did, and then they went on. So yeah, it's a building up process, and Brazil will be, obviously, because of who they are, and because of some of the players and their manager, they will be such an intriguing watch to see if they can find the right mix and the right balance.
A lot more reflections then on our morning show, which Robbo and Nedum told me that they much prefer doing to this one. A little bit of a stab in the heart there.
No,
Live tomorrow, ESPN 2 at 9 a.m. Eastern.